Hello, everybody. In this lecture, we will be talking about mainly data warehousing. So, what is data warehouse? So far, you guys have learned about databases or database, and now taking it to the next step uh, is data warehouse, or how's data warehouse separate from database, and that's what this definition explains it, and which I will get a little bit into detail. So data warehouse is a collection of integrated subject oriented databases designed to support decision support system functions, and where each unit of data is non-volatile and relevant to some moment in time. So what does this mean with all these words? So let me go through all of them one by one. So first of all, a data warehouse is subject oriented. So what does that mean? Uh, so if you want to know, if you want to get the whole picture regarding a subject, let's say customer, students, you go to data warehouse, not a database. What does that mean? Let me give you an example. Let's say you guys, you are you are students in MBA. So right now, when I look in our database, let's say the database is either WebAdvisor or Blackboard, I can see your details as what's your GPA right now, what class you are taking, how much is your grade, things like that. So I, or maybe an administrator, can see what's your information right now. Maybe in some other database. So that's the information. That database is available to me through Blackboard. Then maybe some administrator or somebody in the registrar department has an access to another database which has information about you, as how much fees you have paid, are you getting any financial aid, how much fees is due, are you domestic, international student, things like that. So that database has some other information. And then I'm sure there is another database which has information as when were you contacted first by Ashland University to come and visit us or do MBA at our place, things like that. So these are different databases which touch on different aspect of contact with a student. Now, what a data warehouse does? What a data warehouse does is that it combines all this information together. So all the information about a subject together, so I can see the whole view of contact with that particular subject. How? So let's say if we had at Ashland University data warehouse, I will be able to see that on January 5th, 2016, we made our first contact with a student called Michael or Nitin Walia or Abdul or Ram or whatever. So we made a contact with a student in January 5th, 2016, and that's the time we sent him or her a pamphlet or a request to come visit one of our information sessions. Then the database will also show me that on then March 26th, this particular student applied for our MBA program and got the admission. This was his or her transcripts, grade, prior information, things like that. So that would be that information would be coming from our admissions department, right? But now we have integrated that admissions department database into warehouse. Then once you are in our university, you are doing MBA, you are no longer a potential student, you are a student. So now you are tracked with the databases called WebAdvisor or and Blackboard, which we have again integrated in our data warehouse. So I can continue seeing, first this student was potential student, now he or she is our current student. So So this information is what classes they are taking, what grades they are getting, are they doing working full-time, part-time, looking for internship. So then we tracked you through that database, which is now part of our big data warehouse. Then the last step, you are graduated, you are gone now, you are our alumni. So there's a database at our alumni department who will track information about when you graduated. They will start sending you emails. We will start shamelessly asking for money from you, things like that. And now I am integrating that database into my data warehouse as well. So what the data warehouse did was, in this case, it combined the database from our admissions department. So I know when you were a potential student. So first piece. Second piece, when you are a student. So I combined our database from WebAdvisor or Blackboard. Second piece put together. Third piece, when you have graduated and now you are tracked by our alumni database. So I combine that piece as well. So combining these three pieces or these three databases into one, now I can see each student from the time you were our potential student to now you are our alumni. And I can see all the contacts which we made you starting from that 1st January 2016 when you were a potential student to May 25th, our last contact with you on May 25th, 2018 when you are our alumni. And that's what Data Warehouse does. It combines all the existing databases together so that you can have all the information about a particular subject, which in this case is student. So that's why it says it's subject oriented. Integrated. As I mentioned that in a data warehouse you're combining multiple databases together. Maybe I have a picture here. Maybe data coming from web analytics or from social media sites. So data is coming from a lot of places and different. You are combining multiple databases, and different databases might have different conventions as how they store data. For example, when you are a potential student, we are storing your name as S first name, S last name. Then when you are a student, we store information as first name, last name. Maybe then when you are our alumni, we call you as just as name. So this is a very simple example of how we might be even storing your name with different field names. So how would somebody whose job is to combine all these databases will know that SF name is same as first name? Or maybe in one database we give you a student ID. In another one you are called alumni ID. In another database you are called potential student ID. The primary key to differentiate each student. So even though alumni ID and student ID are similar but different names, how do we combine them together? So that it's a very complex part of the work where you integrate all these data together, part of the process called ETL, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So that's called integrated, that you have combined all these databases together. And to combine these databases together, the biggest problem is that not all the data are stored in the same structure, same manner. And it takes a lot of time to format it and to put a singular structure on all the data you have. So for example, as I just mentioned, that alumni database will have you as alumni ID, student database as student ID. So we want to put one structure over it and first recognize that both these are same. Third part, time variant. When we look at databases, database has information, current information. What is happening right now? Nitin Walia's fees due is $5,000. I go to register department. I give a check of $3,000. Now my record will say Nitin Walia fee due is $2,000. It doesn't show how much was fees due till yesterday or how much fees I've paid over time. It just shows you the current information, what's happening right now. And that's where data warehouses come and play, is very important. Data warehouses generally take a snapshot, a picture, or copy of each database, maybe once a week, maybe once in 15 days, maybe once a month, depending on the company's requirements. So they are taking, recording each database, let's say every Sunday. So that means I have the information of how each database looked over every Sunday for last 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And that way, if you want to study trends or the historical data, that is available in data warehouse, not database, because database has the information of what is happening right now, not what happened 3 months, 6 months, year back. That is available in data warehouse. Non-updatable. Database, the whole purpose of database is to record information, to update information. So you can edit, change information in database, but not in data warehouse. Once information goes into data warehouse, it's only read only. You cannot edit it or change it. So data warehouse is only you update the information or you record it once and then it's read only. You cannot go and change it. So those are the 4 steps as how data warehouse part of its definition, and what does a data warehouse do, as I mentioned through all of these. And the other reason, the reason there's so much need of data warehouse right now is, so this is saying that organizations are drowning in data but starving for information. And the reason for that is that the cost of storing information, collecting information is so low. First of all, I'm sure all of you have, if in past or sometime, bought a flash drive or external drive. Like buying 1 terabyte of hard drive is less than $100. Google gives free 1 terabyte of space. Dropbox gives, I think, 20-30 GB. So the cost of storing the information is extremely low, and collecting, especially because of e-commerce, electronic commerce, social media, there's so much abundance of information also available. So all the organizations are storing a lot of information, but they're having a hard time to storing a lot of data, but they are having hard time converting that data into information. And one of the reasons for that is because a lot of this data are stored or is obtained from multiple sources, and from multiple sources, so you cannot connect them together. And again, that's where data warehouse helps you, is by connecting all this information together and putting a singular structure over it. Additionally, IT has grown so rapidly and so organically over the last 15-20 years that inside a same company, different departments or different people use different kinds of technology when it comes to databases or applications. So in the same company, somebody might be using Oracle, somebody might be using SQL Server or DB2. And then if you're on different platforms of technology, the data cannot travel across from one technology to another. And again, that can be done in data warehouse, where you can combine all these databases together. And as my slide says, that early on, most of the databases or applications were developed to support operational processing. Like for example, when you go to Walmart or Bueller's or Macy's, they swipe each product to do a transaction so that you can buy a product. So those applications or the databases were provided to support a consumer transaction, a customer transaction, so that company can sell something. Not much thought was given in that design, as once we do the transaction, we have that information, the credit card information, or what did the customer buy. How can we analyze that information or use that information for decision making? So now So because that's how it developed in last 10-15 years, but now we need that information to be analyzed. We want it to be used for our decision making. So what do? You have all this databases, transaction processing systems, or TPS, is that what it's called, transaction processing systems. So you take all this information or data from them and transfer it to data warehouse, and from data warehouse you can feed it to your analytics or BI tools. So this is how your complete data warehouse process looks like. So in a company you might have internal external sources. So you might have internal databases, like your supplier customer billing database, like the example I was giving. And external data sources are, most of the companies, like the big companies, also they have a lot of suppliers, vendors. So they also try to bring information from them. Like for example, General Motors have so many vendors in different countries. Apple has so many vendors in China or some other country, Taiwan, who are making their product. So you want to bring information from your external vendor with whom you work very closely for your manufacturing or developing your product. So that means you want to bring information, or sorry, why don't I should call it data, because information is once that data has been processed. So you are bringing all this data from your own databases, plus some of those vendors with whom you have a very close relationship. They are involved in your production, or you are outsourcing your production to them. Then right now in today 2017, social media, web, Facebook, Twitter, all those are or your company's website, those are very highly used to connect with the customer, to talk with customer, communicate with customer, or to sell products to customer directly. And so you have a lot of data coming from your website or your company's social media page or Twitter account, which also you want to bring to connect with your other databases. So you bring all this data from all these sources and your online data, clickstream data, and at this data staging, which is that's where you do your ETL process. You transform all this data into a single structure, and then you load it into your data warehouse. And from the data warehouse, now your C-level executives, mid-level executives can have a full holistic view of a particular subject and access to the historical data as well. Okay. So now you have some idea about data warehouse. Let me introduce a new concept called data mart. Now, what is this data mart? Let me go back here. So, we just talked about data warehouse. What is this data mart? So as in the data warehouse, which is a collection of all the databases, everything, and a same data warehouse will have multiple subjects. Like it might have customer data, employees data, vendor data, things like that. So maybe sometimes, maybe you are not interested in this huge amount of data about every subject. Maybe you want to look at only one particular aspect of the data or information. So let's say you are working in a company where, like as a picture shows, they are combining various databases, but you are a manager, executive in customer service. So you want to see only the customer service part of the data warehouse. You're not interested in seeing everything else which has been put there. Or you are in a sales department or marketing department. So you only want to see how or when we are touching our customer with our social media or advertisement campaign and stuff. So you are again partly interested in in your data warehouse, not the whole thing. So what is done is that these data mart, you can think of that as a slice of a data warehouse depending on your interest. So rather than querying this whole data warehouse or trying to get your arms around this, you can take a slice of this which is customer service data. So what a slice would mean is that you are taking little bit from customer order database, maybe a little bit from web users over a historical period of time, and you are then running your report on it, because you are not interested in this whole huge database or data warehouse. You are only interested in a certain subset of it, which is data mart. So there are two kinds of data mart: dependent data mart, independent data mart. So what is that? Dependent data mart is where you have, your company has this big, huge, nice data warehouse, and you take a slice of it to create a data mart or the data in which you are interested. That would be a dependent data mart. Creating a data warehouse is a very specialized, very time consuming, expensive task. Not every company, especially smaller ones, can afford it. So another approach to still get a sort of a holistic view or complete view about a certain subject is that maybe instead of creating this huge data warehouse, because you don't have the resources or the time or the money to do that, you start creating this mini slices of data warehouse, this data mart. So let's say you first start with a customer service data mart, because maybe that might be more important for you in terms of revenue or part of your business. So you are interested in creating a customer service data mart. So you will pull relevant information from all the databases and web users or web data which are relevant to customer service, combine them together with this data staging, and create only a smaller subset of data warehouse called customer service data mart. So you created one such data mart, which is called independent data mart. Then over a period of time, you will create another data mart, another data mart, another data mart, and maybe over the period of 5 or 10 years, since you have now created so many data marts, they together will form a data warehouse. So those are called independent data mart, and also they're also called bottom up approach, which I'll show you in a minute. So this image, this figure is it shows this ETL process: extraction, transform, load, and so that's called ETS. So what's happening there is, once you get all this data from these sources, you extract it from there, which is one department. Then you transform it. Transform means you are formatting them to have a standardized structure over it, and then you load it into a data warehouse. So extract, transform, load, and all these are a very specialized function of data warehouse, which is done by different you can call departments or teams. And so once this is done, you load it on your enterprise data warehouse, and from there you can create this small data marts, and then use the data for data mining, report creating, applications, data visualizations. You can read about some of those. I've already talked about that. So extract, transform, load. Okay, so data warehouse development. There are two approaches as how you can create a data warehouse. One is called Inmon model, and other is called Kimball model, and that's the sort of the comparison of that. These two are very important to know, these approaches, especially if you want to learn a little bit more about data warehouse. So what's the Inmon approach and what is the Kimball? What's the difference? Let me go back to my figure, which okay. So in a Inmon approach model, you can think of this as an Inmon model, where you are collecting data from the multiple sources, formatting them, loading them into data warehouse, and creating this data mart, slices of data warehouse as you need it. So this is called top-down approach because you started from the top, pulling data from all databases. Now, Kimball approach goes in the other way, which is more relevant for smaller companies or people who don't have the expertise or the need to create this huge data warehouse. So in the Kimball model, you start with only one data mart, which you think you need, followed by second one, third one, as your need changes, as you make more revenue or you have more resources. So let's just, for the sake of example, let's say this customer service data mart is 25% or 1/4 of the full data warehouse. So you created this first data mart, 25% of your database. Second data mart, maybe next year, now 50% of the database you have covered. Third year, another data mart, which might be manufacturing, 75% done. Fourth year, planning some other data mart, operational. Now, because by creating the small pieces of data marts, which are like slices of data warehouse, in X number of years, you have covered this whole data warehouse. And so this is much more not sequential, I will say much more approach relevant for people who want to do one step at a time rather than taking this whole endeavor together. So you create a slice, which, you know, a slice of a cake. If you have enough slices, you can have the whole cake. So this is called bottom up approach, where instead of starting from this huge endeavor, you start with creating smaller slices or data marts as relevant to you, and then over a period of time, once you have created enough data marts, you have covered this whole data warehouse. So you have your whole data warehouse now available to you. And that's what the difference between these two model or approach to building data warehouse is. Okay. So there are some other things which I will let you read yourself, which are why do the data warehouse project fail? What are some of the duties of data warehouse administrators? Things like that.